Today, we're unpacking why participating in the creator economy can add value to a corporate career, and how, in general, this empowers individuals like you and me who want to create and engage and spread and speak to have greater power in the different spaces that we operate within. If you take one fundamental message away from this video, I want it to be that you have agency and you are the one in control of your life. You can do this through a few different mechanisms, but you actually have to engage with those mechanisms to gain the full potential in this space. We always want to be looking for asymmetries where there's a high potential upside and a low potential downside. In my mind, participating in the creator economy is one of these asymmetries. There's little risk if you do it right, and a high potential upside if you do it right. What's important is that we're mitigating the downside. So how do we mitigate the downside? Well, a lot of YouTubers will say, you need to go all into your content creation, quit your corporate job, take my expensive course, follow my gospel, you'll make it. In my mind, that is silly. That means we are taking the stability of a paycheck that we know is coming until we are made redundant. We know what input we have to give to that corporate job. We know what the day-to-day is. We should, in theory, be able to integrate that part of our life with the other parts of our life that we want. And I think it's a bit ironic that a lot of YouTubers tell us we should quit our corporate job when the platform that they are literally using to share their content is a corporate. YouTube is part of Google, and Google is a huge company that does good things and does bad things. And there are people working there to make their dreams a reality. So we need great people in those environments to ensure we have platforms for others to utilize and leverage and speak on. Just a spicy point of view there. Skipping in and out of the Miro a little bit, the creator economy and organizations. Well, firstly, we all have seasons of life. For some people, yes, you want the stability of a corporate job, and for other people, you want to go all into something. What I want to focus on is that by having many dimensions of income and stability in your life, you can gain power in different spaces of your life. And that comes through diversification of both money and identity. So yes, we want multiple financial streams of income. So when an organization makes us redundant, as we see is a frequent occurrence in today's day and age, we aren't only reliant on that organization. That gives us a type of power. But at the same time, we don't want our identity to be solely reliant on the work we're doing in that organization. Because yeah, we might find another job, but if our worth and our identity is wrapped up in that company, if we're made redundant, we might have all the money in the world, but what does that do to our internal state? So we need to both diversify money and our identity and self-worth. But what does this give us? By participating in multiple spaces, such as the creator economy, maybe other streams of income that come from the creator economy, and you see so many YouTubers speaking about all their different streams of income and how much money they make every week. Great. This gives us a sense of self-belief and confidence and security. And what we really get there is the power to challenge norms and innovate. And we can do that in our organizational space because we feel secure in the fact that we have other things going on, both for our identity and for money. We can leverage that in a corporate space where other people who don't have those other things can't be as challenging, can't be as innovative, don't feel as psychologically safe. In that way, even if the organization itself isn't psychologically safe, we can create our own psychological safety, giving ourselves our own security somewhere else. In that, we can maximize upside from uncertainty and chaos. For example, if the economy goes to shit and your organization makes you redundant, you now have all the skills you need to fully focus on creating content, on maybe starting your own business, and that you have developed over a period of time. That means you can take advantage of this uncertainty. Those people who are only focusing on their corporate job don't have any of those skills developed, and so you can go full on, whereas they still have to learn all of those skills. You have an asymmetry. That's great. That's what we want. On the flip side, if an organization recognizes that the skills you've been developing over this period of time is of high value to them, then maybe you won't be the one that gets made redundant. We hinted at some power dynamics there, but in my mind, the creator economy is shifting where power lies in society. There are new forms of power that are being created right now. There is new distribution of power, and there is new use of power. These three things in combination can make you a powerhouse, oh my God, what a pun, in both the corporate organizational space as well as the space of the creator economy. So let's dig into new forms of power. Well, I think of a little bit of old money vibes. Where did old power come from in organizations and society? It came from hierarchy. The CEO is more powerful than people below, and the cascade downwards. came from years of work experience. I've been at my company for 20 years. Every senior person introduces themselves. I've been here 20 years. Great, Fred. And it comes from education. So maybe someone who's educated at Harvard is seen as more credible and has more authority than someone who is educated, I don't know, at the University of Cape Town. Then network. Network is often developed at university, but also in a specific organization, who you know. And many people develop in their career because of the network that they have, not only because they're very knowledgeable and capable and an expert and can do a lot of incredible work. And then, of course, privilege. Some demographics, men, white, are more privileged than other demographics. Females, black, previously disadvantaged, socioeconomic differences, so on, so on, so on. All of these things compound. And so the distribution of power within organizations lies on one side and not another side. So new money, and this is where I see new forms of power coming from. One, technology fluency. Younger people who are incredibly fluent using technology, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's code, whether it's other forms of technology that is coming, have a lot of power and leverage within a system. And we see this. Software developers earn a ton more than people in HR because they are fluent in a type of technology. It's a skill. The next one I see is audience. People who have an audience are gaining power. TikTokers and content creators are going to Hollywood events. Audience has power. The other thing that building an audience requires you to do is form clarity of thought. I see the progress that I've made from my first video to now and how I speak about topics, concepts, and I'm only going to continue to develop this thing. When I enter into meetings, I'm able to articulate myself quicker than many of the much more experienced people in that room because I've been developing the skill so radically over time. 25 videos later, I probably filmed 50 or more videos. I've spoken into this camera for so long, and I hope I've improved how I show up, how I speak, what I say, the nuances, the pacing, all of this stuff is power. But organizations haven't really recognized or caught up that this has happened. So that's where there's a bit of an asymmetry now, that if we are first movers in this space, we can gain an advantage over others to leverage it in our benefit. So new distribution of power. Well, content creation is accessible. Anyone with a basic phone and a camera and an internet connection can create content. And this is distributing who can form an audience, who can build power for themselves. Yes, there is still bias wrapped up in this. There's less accessibility in developing countries, but it is still possible. That is what is important. There is greater agency that people can take for themselves. And then credentials. So it is moving from university providing the credentials or the proxy for what we think is knowledge, skill, and later on experience to proven worth. I am sitting in front of this camera time and time again. Anyone can watch my content, see how I think about things. They don't have to look at my resume and see that I graduated top of my class, casual plug, to know that I'm a smart person who thinks in radically different ways, can apply things from one context to another context. This is my CV. I'm building a portfolio of thinking on YouTube. So anybody, I can say, go look at this topic and how I spoke about this, my thinking on it. I think it's going to be incredibly valuable and useful for your organization. Hire me. The infinite pie. So content creation is not finite. In organizations, there are a finite number of jobs. We can only hire so many people before we start to make the system inefficient. There is only so many people we need in order to add the value that we need in order to have the commercial success. It's a finite pie, but content creation is an infinite pie. We make our own bed here. There are an unlimited number of creators with credibility. You need less of an audience than you might think to earn an income. And it doesn't have to be serious either. People make such crazy shit. That is their passion. They make money from it. And that is amazing. I love that. Then new use of power. So incentives shift from being individual driven to being for the organization or for society. If I am earning more money outside of my corporate job than in my corporate job, and I'm there purely because I want to add value, because the work is meaningful, because I'm intellectually stimulated by it, then my incentives shift from me being dependent on that organization to wanting that organization to be the very best that it can be. Can we say that for many of the people in positions of power in organizations right now? No, because they are reliant on that organization. Their identity is wrapped up in their job, in that role. I've seen people unconsciously making decisions that benefit them because that is how the organizational system is set up. Well, I'm saying that we can step out of that power play, that power dynamic, create our own power in a different space and use that within the other space. By doing that, I will become more valuable to the organization than those other people. Counter bias. Those that experience bias can use a new form of power to force respect. What does this mean? Well, if someone has a large audience and someone treats them clearly in a biased way, they can leverage that power. They can use their audience to speak about it. The example I was thinking of here is very often I see in automotive design, they are highly skilled women, but they might not have the confidence, the presence, the strength, the ability to advocate and fight for their work. And so in interviews, they don't shine in the same way because they don't have the characteristics that hiring managers are used to seeing in candidates they know are going to be top performers. So they don't get the job, or they don't get the development that they need when they're on the job to actually, show up in that space in a good way, and then they suffer. So if there was somebody who showed up to that sort of interview with a large audience and the interviewer knew, then maybe that interviewer would have a different approach to how they engage with that person. And role models. The creator economy is transparency. Credibility is one, meaning more people like me to show what is possible. And this one, I feel, really ties everything together. Using myself as an example, I've been able to speak about some really difficult things in the automotive industry and automotive design because I find myself placed in a psychologically safe environment with a manager and a team that supports me in speaking about this. Historically, this is not usually the case. I've had so many women say, "You're so brave. I wish I could speak out about this, but I fear for the repercussions." And they are not able to engage in this topic, even if they might have the old power, the old money, hierarchy, years of experience. They have the design education, they have the network, and so on. Maybe more people would listen to those women. But what I have, they don't have. And so I can leverage the creator economy, the fact that I have this new money, I'm building an audience, I am working on my clarity of thought, I'm building up my credentials or credibility into proven worth, then I can use that, speak about it, and maybe more women who also find themselves having a click moment, oh, I can speak about this too. They can come out of the woodwork and start to speak about this topic as well. And then we see how it proliferates the space. But this is how I see that the creator economy can benefit both organizations and the individual. I feel a lot more secure in myself. I feel a lot more capable because I'm diversifying my interests. And I also feel like I can be stronger. I can be more confident in the organizational space because I'm not solely reliant on the organization for my quote-unquote survival and my identity, even though I do love my job and I get a lot of intellectual stimulation from my job, which is why I say it's about seasons of life. I still want to have the intellectual stimulation from my organization, from the work that I do there, but I also want to focus more broadly on other things that aren't part of my job. And that is what engaging in the creator economy allows me to do. A beautiful byproduct that now I'm going to leverage more and more as I go forward in my corporate career is the power that being part of the creator economy gives me. And to be honest, it actually helps me with some of this old money stuff too. I'm using my privilege, hopefully to benefit others. I am developing myself and creating experience more rapidly than others. I'm educating myself constantly and I'm building my network. So many people have connected with me because of the content that I've created, and I'm so grateful and appreciative of that. I'm really humbled by that as well. And I hope more and more will happen in the future like that. If you want to connect with me, reach out to me on LinkedIn. A new platform is coming soon. I can't wait to share it, and comment down below on your thoughts on this video. And if you've experienced the same thing as you have started a content creation journey, and if you are hesitant on creating content, let me know why as well, and maybe we can work through that together. Thank you. I will see you in the next one. I am delighted to go out at 20 to 4 now in this beautiful darkness. Can you believe this is Sweden? Anyway,